The episode opens on Iorlas, standing at the edge of the Chetwood, looking out into the fields north of Bree, towards the ancient capital of the Dunedain, Fornost Arrain, in the distance. He cannot see it from here, but he is not far. A few days' travel to the north, and he will find this place that supposedly the shadow is once again looming over. He turns back, holding his ribs, still not fully recovered from the hit that he took from the troll when fighting it with Fitch Talltree, forester of Archet. Fitch is not far, still within the woods. He sees Iorlas coming back. "You're an impatient one, aren't you?" Iorlas looks at him. "I have many leagues to travel this spring. I serve 2 great masters whom I would not disappoint. I am a messenger. I am a ranger. I bring news to places. This is new to me, investigating as opposed to delivering. But if I'm trusted to do this by those whom I trust greatly, then I must see it done." "And you will, Ranger. But you need to recover first. You won't cover many leagues with a broken rib. Or you might, but then just arrive just to get beat because you can't breathe right. Couple more days, that's all." Iorlas nods his head and puts his arm around Fitch, who is much taller. He literally has the distinctive feature of tall, which in this case matters mechanically. So Iorlas puts his arm up around him, and Fitch kind of lifts him a little bit to alleviate the weight and the pressure on Iorlas' chest, and they walk back to the small town of Archet within the Chetwood. And we're going to talk about fellowship phases. But first, I have been really bad about doing announcements these last few weeks. Everything, apparently, I'm just getting more and more busy. Who'd have thunk that happens? But the months of March, April, May have been crazy for me. I hope that you are all doing well as, winter turns to spring, and spring is getting hot here in the Northeast, wherever you are out there in the world. So I hope that you are enjoying this. May is going to roll on with this episode of The One Ring as we continue this series, and I just want to say, before I go any further, I have received more positive comments and emails about these few episodes of The One Ring 2E so far than I have about pretty much anything else I've done on this channel. So I'm so glad that you are all enjoying it. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you like it or have questions or have suggestions or anything at all that you would like to bring to my attention about this game, or just gush about it or talk, because that's awesome. I've received emails, I've talked to some people on the DMs After Dark Discord about it, and it has been super positive. Reddit as well. There's been great Reddit comments. So thank you all for listening. It means the world. And for those of you who are listening, I recently did a Perspective Checks interview with Brian Flaherty of the Many-Sided Media Network, which has incredible shows like Talk of the Table. If you like interview shows, they interview some big names. I'm going to start working up the courage to send those emails. Maybe I'll get those emails. But they do excellent interviews with TTRPG designers and people from all over the industry, as well as My First Dungeon, which is a great short series focused exploration of indie TTRPGs with wonderful production. So go check that episode out. I'm very excited about next month's Perspective Checks interview as well with Meadow, aka Howdy Love Darlin M on the internet. A wonderful designer in her own right. So get excited about that for, oh my god, what's next? June? Whoa. Okay. Well, other than that, next week on this feed is going to be a design diaries that is not going to be about Rust for the first time. Rust has been getting a lot of work done on it lately and getting some playtesting, and I'm very excited about it. I want to make some more changes, and I may be submitting it to a contest thing. Who knows? I don't know, but I want to get this game out. So this is me holding myself accountable. But sometimes you gotta just sit back, relax, and enjoy a little bit of downtime. And that's what we're going to do right now with our first fellowship phase of The One Ring. So fellowship phases in the One Ring 2nd edition are really great uses of downtime. They are basically when the players, in a GM'd game of this, right, it'd be when the players settle down in a town and decide that they're going to take more than just a night to do what they got to do. They find a safe place. They're going to stay there for a little bit. There's actually a really great rule about fellowships during Yule, which is basically the whole winter. The winter is going to be so bad. Why would anybody travel? They're just going to hunker down in a place for all of winter, and you get a whole extended fellowship phase. But for this one, this is just going to be 2 weeks of recovery as Iorlas lets his ribs mend themselves with the help of the people of Archet. And it's not so far that I don't think he can go back and forth to Bree as well. And we're just going to go through, for the first couple minutes of this episode, talking about the mechanics of the fellowship phase and how it factors in to advancement and your character evolving. And again, this is solo Strider mode. So again, think of this if you were playing this in a game with a bunch of other people who have different heritages and different backgrounds and different goals within a campaign. This is a great way to kind of seed the next steps for a bunch of different arcs or little things. But the first thing that we're going to do in a fellowship phase is determine the duration. It has to be at least, I think, a week. I think it's the minimum that it needs to be. Up to an entire season, it says. So we're going to do 2 weeks. Not very long. I think that Iorlas is going to take that first week. We said 9 days to recover his rib injury, so his wound. So he's going to take those 9 days, and then I think he's just going to take a little bit more as he probably undertakes some jobs and things like that around here, around Bree. He's probably going to go back and apologize to the folk of Bree for stirring up drama with the whole Drustan the mercenary and the Band of Saruman thing. Although he still stands by, he's an honorable. We have honorable as a trait. We are absolutely sticking to our guns that these people, if they return, the Bree Wardens should be aware of it. They've escaped custody. If nothing else, they should keep their eyes on it. And it does say Drustan is a regular at the Prancing Pony, so maybe we get some wanted posters up. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So our duration is 2 weeks long to heal, and then we're going to choose our destination. Now, what's cool is, in Strider mode, obviously I'm here, close to Bree, in the Chetwood, all this stuff. So we're here, and this is where we're going to take our downtime. It's a safe place, relatively safe. But in a full game, it does say the players must decide where they're going to spend it. Normally it is a safe haven, but it can be a bunch of different places, and there can be really cool journeys to that destination that encompass the fellowship phase, oddly enough. Then we're going to perform updates. This is the big one. This is basically level up time. Perform update says the players can spend accumulated experience points to improve their player heroes' skills and combat proficiencies and acquire new valor and wisdom ranks. So these cost certain amounts, just like in character creation, where we had a certain number of experience points to allot to and assign to skills and combat proficiencies. We can do that with what we've accumulated. And in the One Ring 2nd edition, you always get 3 adventure points and 3 skill points at the end of every single session you show up to play. So those are free. And then for certain deeds, you get more. I talked a little bit about this at the end of the last episode, but I had gotten up to 12 in my adventure points and 11 in my skill points. And new abilities cost quite a bit more than your starting abilities, right? So just to raise a skill or combat proficiency from 0 to 1 costs 4 skill or adventure points, depending on what you're getting. I actually went and spent 8 adventure points to get 1 new rank in Valor, which is how you get rewards. It actually said in the section with Fitch, Talltree, and the Foresters and the, bows of Archet that after completing this, it says here, if any PCs spend a fellowship phase at Archet and gain a new level of Valor, instead of a normal reward, they can be rewarded with an Archet hunting bow, which I felt was super appropriate given what we just went through with Fitch, felling the troll that had killed his father, getting revenge with him for him through this chance encounter of chasing Drustan and Saruman's mercenaries through the Chetwood that I think Fitch would thank Iorlas in the only way he could really think to, which is, you've earned this. And he gives him one of the famous Archet hunting bows, which makes both of our weapons now, Nimloth's Tear and an Archet bow, deal 4 damage on a successful hit. They have an injury rating of 16, load of 2 each. And then, fun thing about this is, whenever I make a hunting or an attack roll with my Archet bow, I get +3 to the roll, or plus Valor, whichever is higher. My Valor is now 2, so we're actually very close to if I keep spending fellowship phases using my points to increase my valor to get new rewards, I'm geared out. But you also want to increase your wisdom, and you get virtues, which are those things like the only reason I have Nimloth's Tear is from a virtue from starting the game, which I technically broke the rules on because I was supposed to take just a starting virtue and not a heritage virtue, but that's okay. So I spent 8 points to get that bump in valor, as well as the Archet bow. And valor is also used, so is wisdom, to resist shadow, which I have a feeling is going to be coming up when we go to Fornos Terrain. And then I probably shouldn't have done this, but I was up to 11 skill points. If I wanted to bump a 1 rank skill to 2, again, it would have cost 8 skill points, but I could have bumped 2 zeros to 1 for the same price. And there were a couple times in these first few episodes where not having Enhearten and not having Persuade at all was kind of a bummer, because, I wanted to use that in the council. I am a messenger. I do talk to people. I have folklore, so I can get bonuses, right? I can be inspired. I can use my hope to get more dice. I can get, all of these things, but I didn't have any skill dice to roll for those. So I put 1 rank in both Enhearten and Persuade for 4 points each, which leaves me at 4 adventure points and 3 skill points left over that I will quickly amass. Like at the end of this session, they'll be at 7 and 6. So I'll already be close to maybe being able to bump wisdom next time, but I need to be able to do it during a fellowship phase. So this is the downtime. Once we've done those updates to our skills and combat proficiencies, I did not increase my ability to use bows or swords, but there's also growth, which is when you increase wisdom or valor. We did that. Spiritual recovery, which allows us to recover hope points equal to our heart score, which for us actually brought it all the way back up to full, which is great because now we have that resource that we can use to gain additional skill dice, or if we're inspired, gain 2 additional skill dice just for the spend of 1 hope, which is really good, especially in Strider mode when you don't have friends to help you. So that's really great. So we're back full on hope. And then lastly, we choose our undertakings for the fellowship phase. These are the big ones. Now, what's crazy is, in Strider mode, I get to take 2 actions, which is pretty much as a full fellowship, a full group of PCs would be able to choose if they were playing as well. But again, that only helps me. It is kind of interesting that a full group of PCs would only get so many. But the way this works is they can select a number of activities based on whether or not it is a regular fellowship phase or Yule. During Yule, there's a lot more because you're taking a fellowship for the whole season and it's a big celebration. But for right now, for this normal fellowship phase, I get to choose 1 undertaking. And then each fellowship phase, you can choose an additional undertaking as long as it's one of the ones that are listed as free based on the calling of the player heroes. So a normal group would be able to choose 1 as a group and then 1 additional one based on one of the callings. I get to do that, but my 1 calling is messenger. So I think the only one I can actually take is meet patron. So we will be meeting either Círdan or Gandalf. And if you know anything about Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth, I'm not meeting Círdan out here at Bree. We're going to be meeting with Gandalf. That's awesome. And the other one that I'm going to choose, I think is fitting for me. I think that we talked about this a little bit earlier. Iorlas is probably going to go from Archet to Bree before he goes back north to investigate and explore Fornos Terrain. I think if I were to go to Bree, it makes sense that I would gather rumors. This is a fellowship undertaking that can be taken anytime. It doesn't have to be Yule. So we are going to do that, and we're going to get a rumor, and we're also going to run in to Gandalf. Let's go ahead and see what we need to do to make those things happen. So let's go ahead and say that we are gathering rumors first. And what I actually love about this is that it does say choose this undertaking to receive a rumor from the lore master. So in a group game, I love this where your players might tell you, oh, these are the ones we're going to choose. And then you pick up next time, or you give that's the perfect time to take a break as a group. And the GM goes and he finds some tables and he rolls on it and he goes, okay, this is the rumor you're going to hear. In solo mode, I just get to come up with something, I guess. But obviously, one thing that the One Ring 2E has in abundance is great tables. So I'm actually going to go back to the Bree section and I'm going to find a table about carousing or rumors in Bree. And we're going to roll on that. Oh, so there is a Knight of the Prancing Pony table, which is probably good. You know, we'll roll on it, but I also think that it might be worth rolling on encounter tables maybe in the general vicinity to kind of get an idea of whether or not something like that has come through, but maybe not. People of Bree are going to be just sitting at the Prancing Pony enjoying themselves, so let's go ahead and just roll on that table and see what we encounter when we finally get to spend a night at the Prancing Pony. And I imagine Iorlas is maybe not the most popular person there at the moment. We did kind of, you know, maybe potentially blow up the spot of a regular, but honor is honor. So here goes. We're going to roll a d12, one of the feat die, for an evening at the Prancing Pony. Oh my goodness, and we get a Gandalf rune, which means the Grey Pilgrim and Gandalf himself is visiting the pony this evening. So there we go. That's how we're going to swing our meet patron undertaking. However, I wasn't planning on it going that way, so let me just roll one more time and see what we get. Oh my gosh, that is hysterical. I got a 5, which says Fitch Tall Tree. Okay, we're gonna ignore that one and roll one more time. Jeez. Oh, and wow, these 3 rolls were crazy good. Okay, so we have Gandalf himself is at the Prancing Pony, and it has the whole house astir. Perhaps he's on a secret errand of his own, or is searching for the player heroes to gain their aid against some hidden threat. Well, I think that's actually it. I think that maybe Gandalf had heard, after going through the Shire, about what happened maybe with Iorlas on the road to Bree, on the road north to Fornost for his quest, what might have happened, and he turned and made haste to Bree to check in on Iorlas and has been waiting for him, and we finally limp into the Prancing Pony. We will get to Gandalf. Of course, Fitch Tall Tree is here. This one says the Forester has come to the pony looking for stout warriors to join him in a hunt for a new threat prowling the Chetwood. However, I think we handled that. Maybe Fitch is just here with us, making sure that, you know, Iorlas does not get hurt with his injury. And then we get 4 Greenway refugees. Now, the Greenway is the road that runs from Fornost all the way down to, I think, Tharbad. Well past Sarn's Ford and all of that, down at the southern end of the Shire and further south. So we will probably be traveling the Greenway when we leave Fornost for a while. However, these refugees, it says, a small family of homesteaders who once lived along the Greenway have come to the pony in search of refuge. They are cautious, but anyone who asks politely can learn from them that their farm was burnt and sacked last night. We can maybe stretch this to be a few days ago or more, because it'll line up with the fleeing of Drustan and that band. Okay, I think it's not necessary, I don't think, to make rolls during a fellowship phase, but I feel like a few of these are going to require rolls, or at least this one with the Greenway refugees. Gandalf has everyone astir and is probably entertaining quite a few people. I think that Iorlas and Gandalf meet eyes as Iorlas walks into the Prancing Pony, and Gandalf gives him a nod and a look that says, "We'll talk." And Iorlas nods as well, and he and Fitch go find a corner where he can do his shady ranger hood up thing, but then he hears these refugees from the Greenway. Fitch looks at him and nods and says, "I'll go get some ales." And he walks off to the bar. And Iorlas stands up, clearly garbed as a ranger of the north, and walks over to these refugees. "I'm sorry to hear about your misfortunes, friends. If there's anything I can do to help, I have no holds here in the north. I am a messenger ranger. I travel primarily from town to town, but if there's danger to the north along the Greenway, that is the direction I am heading. I would love to hear any information you have and help any way I can." And like the book says, I think that they're cagey. I think that they just lost everything. They cannot fall prey to people who would take advantage of them. They're simply looking for comfort. This sounds more to me like courtesy than it does enhearten, but I can roll both. We're going to open with courtesy because, first, I think that Iorlas needs to make a good impression. And he's going to be courteous about this. He has folklore, which would allow me to spend a hope to get 2 additional d6, but I already have 2 in courtesy, and I am favored rolling 2d12, so I'm going to roll 2d12 plus 2d6 to see if I can engage this group of refugees from the Greenway in a way that will make them open to hearing me out. Ooh, I rolled an Eye of Sauron, but luckily my other feat die was a 6, and I did roll a 6, so a Tengwar rune and a 1, which is a 13, beating my target number of 12 with a Tengwar rune, so I can get a special success. And you know what? This seems like a fun time. I think gain insight would make a lot of sense, right? But widen influence also seems really good here, where it says you can influence more than the specific number of subjects originally targeted. Like, if Iorlas' courtesy was overheard and people started listening to him wax about the importance of honor and safe places and things like that, knowing that this is the man who attempted to bring the Bree Wardens, bring a fugitive to the Bree Wardens and all of this stuff, I don't know if that's more helpful than gain insight. I'm going to combo them. This group of refugees, this family, are receptive. And Iorlas begins talking to them and trying to get information. Where is your homestead? Where would the remains be? You had to flee? He learns that they had to flee in a hurry. They don't have a lot with them. They had to leave a lot behind. He asks, did you see any reason things would have caught fire? Was it natural? Was it unnatural? And they seem to think nothing there would have naturally caught fire. This must have been something to smoke them out, something, maybe bandits or raiders or something. And Iorlas shakes his head, and his fears are being realized that Drustan and his company might have done this to find a place to stay, to loot what they have there, to all of this stuff. And he's looking at them and he's listening to them, and others are listening and overhearing the things that they've been through, and other people are saying. I think that by widening the courtesy influence, I think what we're going to say is Iorlas is opening the hearts of people in Bree to maybe help these people. If it's nothing more than, it's okay, rest in the stable, you'll stay dry, there's hay, we'll get you on your feet, you'll find something to do. What did you do? They start talking to people about what skills they have, what they can do in the meantime to get back on their feet, right? And Iorlas is listening to all this, trying to get an idea. I'm going to roll a d6 and say it's this many hexes away along the Greenway. Just 3, so I gotta check my map. Is that the same as Fornost Arain? Hold on. It is not, so it is roughly, it's a little more than halfway to Fornost Arain, so they've been traveling for some time to get here to Bree. The timing is going to match up, just serendipitously. Wow, I can talk today. But just coincidentally, the timing is going to match up that if this very well could have been Drustan and his, dangerous fellowship that fled Bree to the north. And that is definitely what's on Iorlas' mind. I could roll insight, but I don't think they know anything about that, right? I don't think they would be able to identify anybody. They just saw fire, ran, right? I think Iorlas is going to ask if there was anything that they would like him to look for or recover for them, because he will be passing back through Bree after his business in the north is done. And you know what? I think this one might take a persuade roll. Because, it could also, to the suspicious minds, to the people who just lost everything, somebody being like, hey, what can I go scavenge from your place, might be where your mind goes, right? But Iorlas really wants to ensure that that's not what they think this is. And we now have 1d6 in persuade. It's going to be a tough roll because our wits target number is the highest at 15, and I only have 1d12 and 1d6 to roll to beat this, but you know what? I'm going to go for it anyway, because he does mean this in a nice way, but he might not realize that to those who've had things, like Iorlas has never stayed in one place, never accumulated things, right? Even wherever the Rangers hunker down for winters and stuff like that, he is a man of poor/frugal standard of living. He has what he can carry, and that's it, right? So, let's see. Oh no, I rolled an Eye of Sauron again. Okay, so let's play this one out. The first thing we need to do is increase our eye awareness score by 1 up to a 5. We are still way away from any of the thresholds for any of the different regions that we are in. hex map wise, so those start at I think 14. So we're still a ways away for the hunt scores approaching our eye awareness. However, I do also want to roll on the ill fortune table, which is that D12 feat die table where it's just basically inspiration for if you roll an eye. So let's go ahead and see what we get there. That is an 11, which on my dice is a 1. So it says you draw unwanted attention. Ooh, I like that. What if not all of Drustan's fellowship fled, right? What if one stayed to relay information or go the other way, right? Once they got out, they can go meet up with another agent of Sauron or something like that. Let's go ahead and roll. I think that this sounds like a great time for just the telling table. I think 50-50 middling. So if I roll a 6 or higher, there is still a member of Drustan's Sauron fellowship here. Let's see. It is a 4, so it is not a member of Drustan's crew. So, what is the unwanted attention we may draw in Bree when we are asking these refugees from the Greenway about their burned homestead? We're asking them if there's anything they need me to look out for. When I go there, I will bring it back. On my way back through here, there are some people, my wider spread of my courtesy was opening it up so people said, I have a place for you guys to stay, don't worry if you need anything, etc. I have work that you can do if you are willing to put in the work, etc. They're getting connected, but as soon as I ask this question about, do you have any special items or relics or anything you would like me to look for when I go there, I draw unwanted attention. Looking on the Evening at the Prancing Pony table, actually, this seems like a little bit of a cop-out for an eye, but at the same time, it might be exactly what raises it to the low level of 5 that it is. One of them is John Fernie, the farrier, I think he was, that is very anti-ranger. And he was the outspoken voice during the council that we had in Bree with the Bree Wardens, where Iorlas was attempting to rouse the people of Bree to track these people down and make sure they see justice. And John Fernie spit and said, along the lines of, he buys drinks for us all at the pub, he's a good man. And now he's sitting here at the Prancing Pony, looking at Iorlas, playing the White Knight, trying to be a helpful person, and again, he just doesn't buy it. I think that maybe John Fernie is someone the Eye feels they could sway, right? They are a man on the verge of evil men, if you will. And he sees Iorlas, and I think he calls something out. John Fernie says, impending brawl. There's a loud argument. It seems things are about to come to blows. I'm going to leave this up to a roll. I don't think Iorlas would fight this man, even if this man swung first. But let's see if there's a skill that maybe I can roll during this fellowship phase. Iorlas is injured to just kind of diffuse the situation, right? And I think that no matter what, this man yelling has absolutely distracted the refugee family from sharing any information about their homestead. Iorlas is still going to try and go through if he can. But I actually think, you know what? I might roll awe here to just kind of stand up and stare down John Fernie. Like, I don't want to fight you. I really, actually meaningfully do not want to fight you, but don't slander me and my honor. I could spend a hope here to boost this, but I'm going to roll a feat die and a skill die to beat a target number of 12 with my awe. And I roll another Eye of Sauron. This fellowship phase is crazy. Technically, I believe the fellowship phase, you're not supposed to accrue eye points. I'm pretty sure I just read that. However, this is Strider mode. This is my game. I have not really been accruing it during adventure phases. If during my trip to Fornost Arraign I start accruing it like crazy, maybe I'll go a little easier on myself for this fellowship phase being the thing that draws it to me. But okay, that is an absolute failure. And John Fernie is going to he's going to start yelling, and he's going to throw something, and I think that quite a few people stand up. And again, Iorlas does not fight. There's no way Iorlas engages in this bar fight. However, it's a rowdy enough event that I think the Prancing Pony clears, at least for a few minutes. Get him outside, out we go. And of course, Iorlas gets air with Fitch. And somebody's dragging John Fernie off down the cobblestone streets of Bree. And outside is maybe where we finally catch, sitting on a wagon, puffing his long-stemmed pipe and blowing incredible smoke, dragons and the like, is Gandalf the Grey. But before we talk to Gandalf, increase our eye awareness up to 6, and I'm going to roll on the ill fortune table, and I get an 8, which says an old injury or stress resurfaces. Perfect. I think that just the quick movement reminds Iorlas why he needs to rest, right? He came here to gather rumors and information before he travels further to the north, but even just the threat of a bar fight strained his ribs. Oh, God, he's outside, he's breathing heavy, and that's when we hear the familiar voice of Gandalf. For such a capable messenger, it appears John Fernie failed to get the message. And Iorlas looks up at Gandalf and smiles. Gandalf, I swear I'm on my way towards Fornostarein for your quest, but... And Gandalf just laughs, and out comes this big plume of smoke. It is no problem, Iorlas, son of Baranor. I trust you to see this through. But I came when I heard that you brought in a mercenary of Saruman. What is it that my colleague is up to here, spying on the Shire, looking around in places of shadow? I would ask you continue north as soon as you are healthy and able, as soon as you can push yourself, and I will ride south, Iorlas, to meet with Saruman and get to the bottom of this. If we are fortunate, we may make time. I understand you are also on a job for Círdan, another close friend of mine. Perhaps we will meet on the Cape of Aranvorn. And he gives Iorlas a wink and clicks the cart into motion, and it begins trudging down the road. And Fitch Talltree looks over at Iorlas and looks over at the retreating Gandalf the Grey, and he just goes, "You know Gandalf?" And Iorlas says, "I do. And he's just as cool as you think." All right, well, that, I think, is our fellowship phase, and we will montage the rest of it as healing in the Chetwood in the small village of Archet, where Iorlas is training with the larger, harder to draw Archet bow, but finding the force that he can fire these arrows with. Very, very satisfactory and satisfying, if you will, that they thunk into the targets with such deep force. And he also pulls Nimloth's tear, and we can see him sharpening it every night, and he's telling stories of it and its history to the people of Archet. And he, and I think that there's definitely at least one night where the corpse of the troll, it was in pieces or somehow or some way or another brought back to Archet. And then in the light of the sun, this troll becomes stone, and they have memorialized Fitch and Iorlas's great deed of vengeance for the village forever to stand witness. Which makes sense as to why we chose to increase our valor in the fellowship phase. That is about the deeds and actions that you take, whereas wisdom is about the profound inner journey. Valor is about the deeds that the world sees you as having accomplished, the name that you are making for yourself. Okay, well, I think that wraps up the fellowship phase, and I think we have a little bit more time in this episode to maybe hit the road one more time. I have marked my map with the location of the homestead of the refugees of the Greenway and where their home may be. So if we have time, maybe we explore that hex and find the wreckage and find something. If we have time, if we're not waylaid by something else. But I want to give it one more exploration roll to see what comes up. The way I drew it on the map as well is technically we're going to go a little off of the existing road that winds through the hexes, and basically if I succeed on this exploration, this journey roll to explore, or travel, we're going to go off the beaten path towards this homestead. If we succeed and our encounter is 3 hexes away, it'll happen at that homestead. It feels right to me. That makes sense. So let's go ahead and revisit the journey rules. All right, so we are setting our destination. This is technically like the second leg of the original journey that we were going on, but I get to reset the travel fatigue, and because of the fellowship, I just erased all of the fatigue, not to worry about that. We are fully topped off on everything, endurance and hope and everything. We're feeling good as we leave Bree for the second time, this time during the early morning hours to head north along the Greenway towards Fornost Arain. We are, 5 hexes away. And 3 hexes away is that homestead. I am favored in the travel skill because of my Strider mode distinctive feature. So I'm rolling 2 feat dice, so 2d12, and I have 2 ranks in travel. So I'm going to roll 2d12 plus 2d6 to beat a target number of 12, which is under heart for this. So let's go ahead and roll. I rolled a 6 and a 7 on the feat die. Please don't, Gen Z. Please don't. And a 5 and a 2 on my skill dice, which means that we reach a grand total of 14, which is a success on my travel roll. Also, I apologize to Gen Z if that's not your thing. I think that might actually be like my nephew's generation thing. They might be the one after you, and I honestly don't know what they're called. But don't do it. So we succeed without any 6s, so we don't get to push that hex further away. It is going to be 3 hexes away, which is perfect. We are going to have an encounter right near the homestead of these refugees from the Greenway, a few hexes away from Fornost Arain, right off the Greenway. So I think I'm going to roll on the ruins along the Greenway table in the core rulebook for 1 ring 2E, and I'm going to roll a feat die to see if something here might make it interesting. I got an 11, which is a 1, and it says abandoned stable. Ooh, that sounds pretty appropriate. Let's take a look. Ooh, and there is one here as well for burnt homestead. So I think that we're just going to assume that one, and we'll combo these 2. So we get a montage, classic Lord of the Rings movies montage, of Iorlas walking out of the Chetwood, and he enters these wild lands on the edge of the Dark Lands, according to the map, and he is walking along this stony, grassland, hilled region. The Greenway is named such because it becomes so overgrown that oftentimes the road itself is just overgrown with waist-high grasses. And in this time of spring, they're beginning to shoot up, and the green is shooting up, but littered among the Greenway heading north of Bree towards the cursed, ancient capital of men in Fornost Arain are just ruins and rocks and leftover and discarded things. And Iorlas is no stranger to this road. He travels it often. The Rangers of the North live in these lands, effectively. This is kind of their domain. So he is no stranger to these roads, but moving alone, there's always sort of an increased awareness, attention. But he knows he needs to travel this road to potentially find this homestead, this burned homestead where these refugees had to flee from down to Bree. Eventually he finds the ruins of what may have been a small homestead and collection of homes or buildings. The first of these buildings is this stable, which is a little separated from the rest of the complex of buildings, the others of which have been burned for the most part. They are not really in any kind of good standing. Iorlas carefully approaches the stable and sees that it appears to have been flung wide open. It doesn't look like the stable doors or stalls have been broken through by the animals. It looks like they were opened wide. The prompt in the table says, "The player heroes see a wild steed grazing in the grass. It is a majestic beast that can be calmed with a successful hunting or enhearten roll." Iorlas does have 2 ranks in hunting, and it Oh, it was one of my favorite skills. It is no longer. So I'm going to roll a feat die and 2 skill dice. Now, this is not necessarily going to be training or calming this animal. It does say that I would need to roll, and each Tengwar rolled represents a training opportunity. And if I make at least 3 tests with at least 1 Tengwar showing each time within a week's time, then the horse can be ridden. So this might be a way for us to get a horse. Now that said, it probably belongs to these refugees, but why they wouldn't have taken it, I don't know. However, given the amount of traveling that he needs to do, and the advantage that a horse would provide Iorlas, I think that he is really, really considering spending a day or 2 to investigate this homestead and maybe train or calm or, I don't want to say break, but earn the trust of this horse. So let's roll the first one and see if we pass. Our hunting TN is a 12 because it is under the strength attribute. So here goes. Hopefully we get a Tengwar. Do I spend a hope? We're currently at full hope. I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend 1 hope and I'm going to invoke my bold distinctive feature to get 2 additional d6s for this roll. So we're very likely going to pass it, but I'm really fishing for these 6s. Here goes. And we get 1. And good thing we did, because our feat die is only a 3. So there's a 6, a 5, a 1, and a 4. So we beat it just on our skill dice. The feat die doesn't come into play, but we get a 6 on the roll, which means that we've begun earning the trust of this horse. And I think it looks like Iorlas slowly approaching through the high grasses. Maybe he pulls a ration of fruit or something out of his own pack, or picks one from a nearby tree in an orchard, just kind of tosses it towards the beast, doesn't hold it out expecting it to come to him, but lets it know that he provided this, and he's maybe not a dangerous person. He's going to let the beast have a little bit of space to slowly acclimate to that, and we're going to count that as 1 success, and we're going to go check out the homestead now. The burned homestead part says, once the farmhouse of someone who lived upon the Greenway, this is now a ruined pile of burnt rubble. A successful scan roll will give us information, so let's go ahead and roll that before I read any more. Our scan, not great. It is only 1 rank, and it is in the wits attribute, which is our highest target number of 15. I don't think I have a way to spend anything to get more. I could spend a hope just to get an additional 1d6, but I don't think I have a distinctive feature that, honorable might work. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend a hope and say that this is the honorable thing to do. I'm doing this because these people, the only reason Iorlas believes they lost their homestead in the first place is because he let Drustan and his fellowship go. So the honorable thing to do would be to salvage what he can for these people. I'm going to spend 1 more hope, get 2 more d6, rolling a d12 and 3 d6 against a 15 target number. Holy cow, huge. Again, a 3 on my feat die and another 3 on one of the skill dice, but the other 2 are 6s. So I have 2 6s to spend for special successes. That's going to be interesting. But first, the successful scan roll tells us that the occupants did not escape the fire. Several appear to have been slain by orc arrows before the flames took them. I'm going to ask the telling table. We saw a group who came out of here, refugees from this attack. I'm going to say it's unlikely that they wouldn't have told us that there was another member of their family or someone they knew from here who had died in this attack. So maybe this isn't the exact prompt here. I think it's unlikely that this is the case. I'll have to roll an 8 or higher on this feat die for it to be the case. I rolled a 10, so it is the case. They did not tell me that somebody died. Huh. And Iorlas can easily tell by the fletching and make of this arrow that it was of orc make, not Drustan. Interesting. Now with our 2 special successes from those Tengwar runes, I'm going to go quietly, which is going to allow me to achieve my goal noiselessly or without attracting attention, and I'm going to gain insight. I don't know what that insight's going to be yet. I think I'm going to roll on the lore tables, and I will see what combination of 2 words feels the best. So to do that, I roll a feat die and a d6 for both of these, and I'll roll them separate so that way we have our 2 combos. Ready? The first is... Oh, that's funny. I got a 9 and a 5 and an 8 and a 5. So... Ooh, how appropriate. 8-5, I could have seize for my action, and 9-5, I could have treasure for my focus. Seize treasure. So, with the 2 special successes I got for carefully investigating this farmhouse, I find the orc arrow in... I'm going to roll a d6. How many people? Just 2. 2 people did die here in this homestead. We were not told that by the refugees. And they are slain by orc arrows, and the building was burned. Iorlas is wondering, it couldn't be Drustan, because at this point in Middle-earth lore, Saruman is the White Wizard. He is not slowly succumbing to the influence of his Palantir, and he is not becoming an agent of Sauron yet. Although, those machinations may be in the very beginning stages, there's 0 reason for Iorlas to suspect there is something that would tie Saruman to orcs and Drustan to orcs. So now, I think the hairs on the back of Iorlas's neck go up as he's like, oh no. I assumed this was one thing. It is not. This is going to be another. And he's looking around for, why wouldn't they tell me what they wanted me to find? But there is a treasure to be seized here. It was not taken by the orcs. Maybe the flames and the attack and all of this was just something unrelated that Iorlas cannot figure out right now. But after a couple of days of this building groaning and collapsing under the weight of the charred wood and everything that's here, maybe Iorlas does find something. And what kind of treasure could that be? Okay, I know we're coming up on time, and I want to end this on a cliffhanger. The treasure index portion of the core rulebook does recommend that there be at least 1 to 3 wondrous items and 1 to 3 pieces of war gear for each player in the company for a campaign. Iorlas has already gotten his 1 piece of war gear. Maybe I'm going to aim for 1 to 2 because this is going to be a shorter series, not a full campaign. But I think it's time to make a wondrous item. Let's roll on some tables to figure out how to do that, and then we'll complicate it a little. Okay, we are going to create a wondrous item or artifact here. The first thing I'm going to roll is to see how many blessings it has. It should have 1 to 2 max. I'm going to roll a feat die. If it's an I up to a 6, then it's only going to have 1 blessing. If it's a 7 up to a Gandalf rune, it will have 2. It is a 7. It is going to have 2 blessings. Okay, so then I'm going to roll twice on this table. I roll 1d6 to determine which of the first... There's going to be 2 skills that this wondrous item is going to allow me to gain 2 dice on for certain rolls with that skill and achieve a magical success. But magical successes are dangerous. They do draw the eye. So here goes. We're going to roll a d6. It's going to be 1, a personality 1. It's going to be awe, enhearten, or persuade. Let's see. 2, it is for awe. Ooh, very cool. This recommends it could be a ring, a cloak, a circlet, a collar, a belt, a weapon sheath, a staff, or a war horn. Okay, let's see what the other skill that it's going to bump is, and then we'll make something up for that. So the other skill is a 4, survival. Oh my goodness, this is like leaning right into my strengths. And a 1, hunting. Awe and hunting in this remote Greenway homestead, where there is a majestic beast in a stable that was not brought with the refugees that fled the attack of apparently orcs. This is getting very intriguing. Alright, that says it could be a belt, a hunting horn, or a staff. Both of these have belt on it. That seems pretty good. They both also have staffs and horns. Horn seems very good here. And how cinematic and Lord of the Rings would it be to, in the charred remains of this homestead, in the charcoal, the dark, black, burnt remains of crumbled wood that was the frame of this house that has collapsed. Sticking through, unburnt, it's definitely gonna be made of some kind of like bone, ivory, something like that. I mean, what if this is from those like very, very far southlands where those enormous elephant-like beasts from The Return of the King are from, and maybe it is part of something like that. Like it is large, right? And it's sticking out of the rubble and the burn, and it is unmarked, and it is brilliantly, beautifully carved and inlaid with symbols and writing. And Iorlas goes over and pulls it out of the rubble and sees that this thing is absolutely pristine. He looks at it, its mastercraft, magical quality to it. He thinks to himself, okay, well, I can bring this back to them. And he walks back outside and he's holding it, and he looks across the fields of the Greenway. This far north, these cursed lands, there is that horse. And something within him, something, is just telling him to try to blow it. We're going to roll a second roll here with, I think, hunting. And we're going to gain an additional 2d6 on it, because I'm going to look up the rules on how this works, but it says the bearer of a marvelous artifact or wondrous item gains 2 dice when making rolls with the skill corresponding to its blessing and allows the player hero to achieve a magical success. This would allow me to spend 1 hope to forego rolling and just treat the roll as if it was a magical success, passing no matter what the target number is. But magical successes are dangerous. It says a magical success is an outcome so remarkable and unusual it may be unsettling to folk not used to such feats, or raise suspicions. I'm going to do it. I'm going to roll anyway and see if I get Tengwar runes, but I'm going to consider this a magical success. I just want to see if those 6s come. I think this horn is going to call this majestic horse. Here goes. Maybe they couldn't bring it because they fled without the horn, and the horn is the only way that this horse will listen. That's how majestic of a steed this is. I'm doing it. I'm using a magical success. And when Iorlas brings the horn to his lips and blows, there is a layered thundering. In the sky, the cloudy day, there is a far-off, distant boom and rumble of thunder. And then there is the thunder of horse hooves padding and galloping and sprinting across these fields towards the homestead from wherever this horse was. And there's also the footsteps of maybe orcs. And there's also a banging, an echo far, not so far anymore to the north, of something stirring and rumbling in Fornost Arrain. And that is where we'll end this episode. We're going to have to name that horn. We're going to have to come up with a bunch of cool stuff. We get to name a horse. Iorlas has a horse. That's so exciting. But I think blowing that horn might have been a bad idea. As always, thank you so much for listening to this episode and my podcast and the silly little shenanigans I get up to playing games all by myself. If you like what you're hearing, follow me on social medias. If you want updates, I will get back to doing that better. And if you want, you can always reach out and email me at rainyplaysgamespod@gmail.com or join the DMs After Dark Discord to come hang out. We've got more people coming who are into solo games, so it's my time to shine. We get to hang out and talk solo games and stuff. It's awesome. It's a cool little community. You should totally join it. Link is in the description. And yeah, I am looking forward to playing more One Ring. I said 6 episodes. We're at 4, and there's no way it's going to end at 4. I'm thinking, let's aim for 12. Until next time, remember that it's okay to take some downtime and take care of yourself.